doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Soon, and Iran is probably starting to lay the groundwork for developing nuclear weapons over the next maybe year or so. And that would also dovetail with why they're talking with Pakistan, a nuclear weapons state that helped Iran with centrifuges to start its program in the first place, and also Russia, another nuclear weapons state that's been a military ally of Iran. So if Iran is going to pursue this very aggressive agenda to truly emerge as the fourth center of world power with nuclear weapons, it needs allies, and it looks like it's working with its allies, and it's certainly working with its allies better than we're working with ours.
I recommend putting boots on the ground. One, people sometimes underestimate the size of Iran. I'm from Texas, Walter, and Iran is 2.5 times the size of Texas. And I try to explain to people, look, that's like telling people that you're going to put Marines in West Texas and expect them to move all the way to Houston. This is just, it's hard to do. Could we take Carg Island? Yeah, we probably could, but it would be very risky to do so. I don't see putting boots on the ground as a real option. Not to say the president won't, but I don't really know what it would gain him. What I have been saying from day one was that if the Iranian regime survives, Iran wins. And so right now, the president's in a very difficult position. The Iranian regime, unless there is a collapse of the regime and a more moderate theocracy or some other administration comes in, back to your question, are we any better off than we were prior to February 28th? Well, we have decimated their Navy. We have decimated their Air Force. We have certainly put back their nuclear program. But how much better off are we? I think that remains to be seen.
Europäischen Rat in der letzten Woche auf Zypern habe ich dafür geworben, den Sanktionsdruck auf Teheran jetzt noch einmal zu erhöhen. Denn wenn Hormuz blockiert bleibt, hat das massive wirtschaftliche Schäden für uns alle. Unsere Botschaft lautet daher, der Iran muss an den Verhandlungstisch kommen. Er muss aufhören, auf Zeit zu spielen. Er darf nicht länger die ganze Region und letztendlich die ganze Welt zur Geisel nehmen. Das militärische Nuklearprogramm im Iran muss beendet werden. Es darf keine Schläge mehr gegen Israel und die Partner in der Region geben. Sicherheit. Und genauso, es ist ein Beitrag zu einer erneuerten transatlantischen Partnerschaft. Ich habe das ja mehrfach betont. Wir setzen uns in diesem Geist auch dafür ein, jetzt schnell die iranische Blockade der Straße von Hormuz zu beenden. Wenn die entsprechenden Voraussetzungen gegeben sind, dann steht Deutschland bereit, sich auch militärisch zu engagieren, um die Freiheit der Seewege zu gewährleisten. Vor dem Europäischen Rat in der letzten Woche auf Zypern habe ich dafür geworben, den Sanktionsdruck auf Teheran jetzt noch einmal.
We should not humiliate ourselves by being the demandeurs that please, we beg you to talk to us, but we should put them in a position where they actually go from pretending to negotiate to actually negotiate. And that's why we have planned to discuss with the foreign ministers of the European Union in Cyprus also.
Моего участка здесь все вышли, но туда ушел у нас АЕ-102 и 3 человека с ним. Я судьбу их не знаю.
עוצמה פנימית.
הוא לא חושב שמדינה פלסטינית זה הפתרון בסוף?
יכול להיות שבטווח הארוך הוא חושב, אבל זה לא הנושא שעל הפרק. מישהו עומד להקים מדינה פלסטינית. כרגע הנושא שעל הפרק זה שהמדינה מתפרקת. הנושא שעל הפרק זה שכרגע, אני חייב להגיד משפט מאוד קשה, ההשתמטות הורגת לנו את החיילים שלנו. ואני חוזר מהצפון אתמול, פגשתי חיילים לאורך הגבול, הם אומרים לי, אין לנו מספיק חיילים לעמוד במשימות, אנחנו כובשים מקום ואז נאלצים לסגת כי אין לנו, וליד זה עומדים 100,000 חרדים, צעירים, בריאים בנפשם, והממשלת או קואליציית נתניהו, סמוטריץ', דרעי, נותנת להם מיליארדים. אלה הנושאים האמיתיים.
Welcome back to the SCIF. So somebody sent me a Q post Trump just put out saying the storm is almost here and nobody can stop what is coming. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but we're going to try to give you the information so you understand what's happening right now in the world. A lot going on. We have been really working hard to get information out. Our output machine is on full blast, and we're trying to curate all of this. Not even a fire hose, waterfall, Niagara fall of information that's coming your way to cull down to what you really need to know. And that's what this show is about. It's an intel show. So that's why we call it the SCIF, the Special Compartmentalized Information Facility, something like that. I want to say hello to the crew in the chat. You're cleared hot. Check out whatfinger.com. Great aggregator site. They post a lot of our content. You saw in the cold open, the Israeli elections are ongoing. Look like later in the year, in the fall, maybe October. And already the opposition parties are combining to go after Netanyahu. And you saw the response from Netanyahu there, calling basically an AI image of pulling off the mask and saying they're Arabs behind them. That's for the Israeli public's consumption, of course. But, we'll see. We're going to stay on that election. That's a biggie. That's a very biggie. And then you have the EU barking that they're going to confront Russia, and they're spending some money to grow their militaries, which they should. But the Ukraine war is still going, and you saw the Russian oil facility on fire after a drone strike that we're providing intelligence to. So it really shouldn't be any complaints of Russia or even China supplying Iran intelligence information to kill our soldiers, because we're doing the same thing. We've got a big show for you today. Tom Teague's coming on second segment. We're going to talk about the Fed and the drama that's going on there. I've got Promethean Action again. We're really talking to them a lot about understanding why the king was here. And we're going to focus a little bit, give you a little history on the War of 1812. And I've got Commander Dan O'Shea at the top of the hour to discuss his next episode of Into the Lions podcast with Commander or Lieutenant Colonel Genghis Khan is his nickname in his new book, Betrayal of Command. And then I've got a very interesting interview by Ryan Millsap down in Georgia 10. He's running for Congress. So, wow, so much to go through. Let's do the mission brief real quick. Today is April 30th. I'm your host, Todd Wood. Here's your mission brief. OPEC changes, UAE pulls out. What's behind that? No parental rights in Canada. Your children don't belong to you. Biden knew the COVID vax was a killer. Mamdani needs money. Surprise, surprise, surprise. And Hung Kao in the Navy pushes accountability for the vax in the Pentagon. Wow, so much going on. We've got new sponsors I want to introduce you to as well. So we'll be right back after this break. Stay with us.
That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our cdm.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you.
It's being tracked, collected, and sold, often without you even realizing it. Big tech companies control your devices, your apps, and the information you share. From your messages to your browsing habits, everything is being monitored and stored. Over time, we've traded privacy for convenience, and most people don't even question it. But what if you could take that control back? That's where Mark 37 comes in. Mark 37 provides privacy-focused phones, laptops, and tablets designed to give you full control over your digital life. With secure systems, expert support, and simple tools, they make it easier to step away from constant tracking and data collection. Because privacy isn't just a feature, it's a fundamental choice. It's about protecting your data, your freedom, and your future. Take back control of your digital life with Mark 37.
Do you already have your investments with Fidelity? I'm David Cross with U.S. Asset Management. Did you know that you can assign your investment management to my team and put my 35 years of experience to work for you? You simply assign us as your investment manager and you keep the same username and password. Professional management, and you get to work with someone who shares your values. Call U.S. Asset Management today and put us to work for you.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Want to highlight mark37.com. That's mark37.com, mark37.com for our audio audience. New sponsor. We're very focused on privacy, and they are going to help you get there. And you're going to learn more about them over the next few weeks to months. But very, very important to make sure that people in our movement are not constantly tracked. We got to pull out of the matrix, got to unplug and build a new world, because they're trying to put us in chains, and we don't want that to happen. All right, let's talk about the Fed. I'm going to bring in our guy who knows all about it, Tom Teague. Tom, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, big news. Warsh looks like he's going to be the governor, the Fed chair, but Powell doesn't want to go away. What's happening there, my friend?
Well, I mean, I think everyone in the industry tries to maintain some sort of sort of, I don't know, people don't want to get convicted about what's going on. And it was funny to watch just the various people. I mean, I would expected Besson to say this, but he was just kind of shocked that Powell's going to stay on. I mean, if you ask me, I mean, it's so blatantly obvious right now that the FOMC, which is 7 members, there's 5 rotating members, but 7 permanent members. This will stop Trump, as long as Lisa Cook's there, from having, his guys in the majority. It's a complete joke, and that's exactly what he's doing. I mean, there's like one other person that's done this. The fact that Powell is doing it after he has been accused of so many things, even things that Trump didn't accuse him on, like, not having his papers in order, trading stuff when he was supposed to be restricted, blindly defending Lisa Cook when she should be out of there. People are leaving for less than that, any kind of blemish. It's all about the control of the Fed, right? And to me, this is exactly what it is. It's not like, Powell's bitter. It's Powell is blocking Trump from getting done what he wants to get done.
Which is really important. I mean, changing the financial system, getting the economy on track.
Correct. Well, it's like everything else that you're told, like, it needs to be a certain way, and we need to have these people that are on these committees. But all it is just controlling an institution, right? It's controlling an agency. It's like we don't want you to come in and do. And to me, it's very obvious that the Fed and the way that it's been run is not helping the average American get traction. It's anything but that. And they can get up there and lie all they want to about, oh, well, inflation's really the problem, but it's not. The problem is that the average American is finding it hard to really get a good job and to make more money. And the costs of things like, forget about eggs for a minute, the cost of university, the cost of healthcare, these are really impactful things, and people can't get ahead. They can't get traction. Every time there's an economic cycle and people start getting traction in their lives, the Fed comes in and starts raising rates because the elites, and this is my own opinion, they don't want wage growth. They don't want the average guy to do better. So, this is where we are with the Fed, and this is Jerome Powell, blocking everything he can. And if Lisa Cook and he both were to leave, then it's going to be a good thing. And like, there's nothing wrong with Trump appointing his guys. There's many different philosophies that run institutions, right? Sure. And the one that Obama and Biden used didn't work. They've gotten thing after thing wrong about the economy. The tariffs are going to cause inflation. There's always some reason they come up with why they can't cut rates. And the reality is the housing market right now is really suffering. You can look at all the housing stocks. Housing starts are barely going. There's a beat number yesterday, but in general, they're very weak. The average American is not able to get out of his mortgage and find another place. So he's kind of locked where he is. And that's another sort of conspiracy theory about what the Fed's been doing with that. But, mortgage rates are still very high. So this is not a great time for the average American. And there was a guy on OMG that came out I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And he was working in the Fed, and he was saying that Jerome Powell was out to get Trump in Trump's first term. What's obvious, that's what's happening. I mean, those two hate each other, and he should leave. He doesn't have any ownership in the Fed at all. He should be gone.
So let me ask you. So I guess the charges against Powell were that he was insider trading, that he was essentially laundering money or doing something corrupt, building the Fed. These are the criminal things that are against him.
The insider trading was an old thing back before or during, I guess, in the beginning of COVID, when there were a number of those guys that were trading, or he had I think in Powell's particular case, he didn't have some accounts that he separated completely. He was they have an investigator, in the Fed, whom I think now it's the guy Horowitz, that guy. He's now the investigator within the Fed.
Might as well make him Robert Mueller,
Right, exactly. But he was clear to that, and that's fine. But in my opinion, you get enough of these blemishes, you get enough of these problems, you shouldn't be back in there, and he should just leave. But now this thing, lying to Congress, and I think it all is part of the same thing. He was effectively saying that he was going to redo the Fed, and it was costing billions and billions and billions of dollars. Meanwhile, and that's government money, that's taxpayer money. Meanwhile, Trump is building, a ballroom on the side of the White House that's being privately funded, and they're doing everything they can to stop him. Like, if Powell wants to get a bunch of people to pony up and give money, that's fine. But, he can't go in front of Congress and lie about the scope of it. and it should be looked at. I mean, it's wrong. You can't have these guys that don't have any, accountability to the public, and that's the way they behave.
So what can Trump come back in and put the DOJ back on Powell again after Warsh is in there? Do you think?
I think he can. I mean, if it's not like it went to trial, so I don't think that would apply. I don't, I think they just dropped the charges. They can open them back up, and I frankly, I hope he does. I mean, the guy should be out of there. And you're starting to see some, pretty credible Wall Street people say, this is just not normal. This guy is, if he wants to have the Fed be truly independent, he needs to go.
So there's a big debate. Is Trump on which side is Trump on? Is he in the pocket of Netanyahu? Is he just, doing whatever they want and he's flipped and he got the vaccine to everybody, so he's part of the problem? And then you have this going on, which shows that the machine is still against Trump big time. So 100%. It shows
I think that anyone who is stuck on this, like he is Bibi Netanyahu's servant, is full of crap, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm sure Israel has a very big influence over this country. We all know that. That's not like a surprise. I mean, but to think that Trump's going to take orders from this guy is a joke. And I'll just say this: go back to when they entered Gaza and Trump had Bibi Netanyahu at the White House, and Trump says in front of him, maybe we'll go in there and rebuild it. The expression on his face, on Bibi Netanyahu's face, was priceless, right? It was just kind of Trump being the boss and saying, you know what, you're not going to tell me what to do. And Trump does things, and he usually doesn't do things unless there's like 5, benefits to doing it, right? So he would not go in and risk the midterms and risk his presidency and the economy on the U.S. because Bibi Netanyahu is calling him every 5 minutes, telling him they're going to have a weapon in 2 weeks. There's ancillary benefits. Like if this goes well, you're taking out a major choke point on the world economy that we have no control over. I mean, the other thing is, look at what happened this week with the UAE saying that they wanted to produce their own oil. That undermines OPEC in a major way. And OPEC is no bueno for us.
Well, I'm old enough to remember the gas lines and 55 miles an hour on the expressway,
And we're exporting 5 million barrels of oil a day, which is more than Russia right now. We are exporting more oil.
Tucker's out with Marjorie Taylor Greene last night talking about the deportation, and there's an effort to destroy Western civilization. I agree with that. I think there is an effort to destroy Western civilization with migration and everything. What do you think about the lack of mass? I think they've got 3 million people out. I know he's trying to win the midterms. What do you think of that whole issue?
Well,
Trump?
you're seeing it. I mean, one thing, jobs markets are very tight right now, right? So that's telling you that there is an effect, I think, that is going on with the deportation of a lot of people. You don't want to have a situation where people that you're getting rid of so many people that you've got like major labor shortages. And that's the reality. Like, I respect Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene, but it's not realistic to say we need to get rid of every single person that's in the country illegally, because there's bigger problems that we're going to have, right? There's where are you going to get people to do work? What's going to happen to the construction industry, right? Prices are going to go through the roof. There's not enough bodies, right? How are you going to do like a lot of agriculture? I mean, realistically, these are things that need to be considered, and it can't be just based on principle or ideology. I mean, and I'm all for stopping the inflow, but you have to have some very real conversations. So I think they're kind of like, Tucker is kind of living in his like little shire in Maine or wherever the hell he is. And that's fine. But that's, his sort of view now of isolationism is not going to make us the strongest economic power in the world at all. Right. We can't be that isolationist. That's what we did for years. And it came back to bite us in the ass. Right. Like, let's have free trade with China. Well, they don't do free trade. they do forced trade and mercantilism. Okay, great. How did that work out for us? Right? It was a disaster. So Trump's finally turning that around. I heard people complain about China. They're stealing our IP, all this stuff. He puts tariffs on thing. Everyone starts whining about tariffs. This is unfair. This is not free trade. I mean, I have loads of friends that have small businesses that China has destroyed because they've subsidized industries so much, right? So like, you know, in Tucker's world, you leave them alone. You don't do all these things. That's fine if you want to sit around and fish in Maine all day. But, you know, you want to be the most powerful nation in the world. You got to act like it and you got to do things.
So what about Lisa Cook? The charges against her, I'm just trying to educate our audience, is mortgage fraud, right? She lied on a mortgage application.
I think, I think if I remember correctly, she had bought places saying they were her primary residence when they were being used as rental properties. And I think there's some other stuff in there as well, which is, you know, a total joke. And that's not an oversight. Like if you're in a bank and you work in a bank and the Fed is essentially this independent government entity, and those people should be held to even a higher standard than people in an investment bank, right? Because they can't really be taken out very easily. So she goes out and does this and then, you know, and says, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying exactly where I am. Well, if you were an investment bank, you'd be fired for this stuff in a second. Like if you're falsifying financial documents, you know, I mean, and if you're careless enough not to catch it, which I can't believe, then, you know, that's another problem in and of itself. But, you know, I'm hoping we're going to see what happens with, I think it's in the Supreme Court, and it's a bigger question about, you know, even though the Treasury is part of the, you know, effectively Trump controls that, you know, indirectly and appoints the Fed chair, you know, and other people in the Fed, you know, it's a big question of how easily is it to remove these people when they're doing a terrible job or they do something wrong, you know? And so I think we got to wait and see on Lisa Cook.
Anything else people need to know about, Tom?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, markets are pretty much starting to tell us. I mean, we had this big Supreme Court decision, you know, I don't think the midterms are lost yet. I think it's way too early to tell. There could be some big impact with, you know, what's going on in Florida, what's going on in Texas, what's going on in Louisiana. So, you know, I think markets are telling us right now that a lot of this stuff in the Middle East is taking a back seat to where we're going in the future. And, you know, I think that's important.
All right, my friend, we'll have you back next week. Take care.
All right, cool. See you.
Excited to announce that we're having our biggest Made in America sale ever. We just put huge discounts on products made right here in the USA. My Pillow bed pillows, body pillows, go anywhere pillows, bolster pillows, all made with my patented adjustable fill. Mattresses, mattress toppers, mattress pads, adjustable bed frames, mattress foundations, and so much more. All made right here in the USA. And now we're expanding our USA products beyond just quality sleep. Like the cross I wear every day, now available in both men's and women's. We even have USA-made socks. And are you tired of being tired? Try our new health beverage, Rev 7. Or how about my coffee, the greatest coffee ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to get deep discounts on all these products. Plus, for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Divorce is tough, but your finances don't have to be. I'm David Cross, and I'm a certified divorce financial analyst practitioner. My job is to help you get a fair financial settlement in your divorce and to guide you to smarter money decisions. Find out how we can help you. U.S. Asset Management. It's your money.
A warm welcome here at the National Press Club. Welcome to the journalists, welcome to the Embraer team, and welcome to the other guests that we have here. We're going to announce, and as some of you guessed it right when they came in, the first E2 order by an American operator. And that operator is Avello. We believe this is really a strategic shift to unlock profitability for the customer. I'm very pleased that we have Andrew Levy here as the CEO of Avello, and I'm very pleased to give the stage to share a little bit more about what Avello is going to do with the E2 195. Thank you very much.
Couldn't be more excited to be here as part of this historic announcement. We have such a great cultural fit as companies, so we're very, very excited to be Embraer's newest customer. We launched our airline in April of 21, and our target is focusing on small secondary airports of large metro areas. We've carried over 8 million customers since we started on 63,000 flights. And we've done all these things with 1,200 of the greatest crew members I could ever imagine having, and many of them are here with me today. This is the right airplane for us. It's going to open up opportunities for us that no other aircraft can serve. The best thing about the airplane, of course, is you will not find a middle seat on this airplane. It doesn't exist. We won't have any to offer. It's going to be the best cabin in the United States, and we're so excited about that. This is going to elevate our experience to the highest level, and we think our customers are absolutely going to love the airplane.
Fighting soldiers from the sky, fearless men who jump and die, men who mean just what they say, the brave men of the Green Beret, silver wings.
Welcome back to the SCIF. This is a silver round. Protect your portfolio with precious metals. We advise that. Go to cdmmetals.com. You can completely trust Advisor Metals and Ira Boshatsky and the team. cdmmetals.com for our audio audience. This was worth 20-something bucks when we first started talking. It's around 75 now. It was as high as 100 and something. Metals have been a store of value for thousands of years. They work in times of turbulence, and boy, are we in turbulent times. So if you have some extra cash you want to put into metals, give them a call at cdmmetals.com, fill out the form, or even if you have an IRA that you want a portion of your life savings, put in a store value that's going to protect you as we enter some very difficult times in the financial markets possibly. So cdmmetals.com, fill out the form, they'll get in touch with you. We can completely trust them. We've gone through all of their background and everything, and we've had great feedback. I want to also highlight, here's Mark 37 website, mark37.com, with the phones and the tablets. We're going to have Sean Patrick Tario back on next week to discuss. But this is something I really want you to focus on, is privacy. You can do it. You can get off the matrix. It takes a little bit of work to understand, but they have some very good free advisory sessions they do online on how to protect your privacy. So we'll talk more about that as time goes on. But Mark 37 is something I want you to take a look at and look at privacy. All right. So the issue is the king, and he was just here, and Promethean Action has some good thoughts about it. We've had them on a couple times. This is Barbara, not Marcia, who we usually have on. This is a tape from Barbara. And I want you to kind of get an understanding of what's happening, because we're really going to start talking about what is behind all the stuff that's been impacting us, just not the consequences, but what is actually driving all of this. So I hope you enjoy this. If there's any trouble with the sound, let me know.
Saturday night, Donald Trump was the target of a third assassination attempt, and it happened at the very same Washington Hilton where Ronald Reagan was shot 45 years ago. Here's what the president said.
You know, I've studied assassinations, and I must tell you, the most impactful people, the people that do the most, you take a look at the people, Abraham Lincoln, I mean, you go through the people that have gone through this where they got them, but the people that do the most, the people that make the biggest impact, they're the ones that they go after. They don't go after the ones that don't do much because they like it that way. And when you look at the people that have either, whether it was an attempt or a successful attempt, they're very impactful people. Just take a look at the names there, the big names.
He's right, and he knows exactly what he's talking about. And the timing of what's happening this week tells you everything. Today, King Charles arrives in Washington. just as a conveniently timed book is published called The Queen and Her Presidents, The Hidden Hand That Shaped History. Well, that hidden hand is not happy with Donald Trump, as a new House of Lords report released at Chatham House last week makes very clear. So we have a thwarted assassination attempt, a royal visit, and a Chatham House forum. These are not separate events, although the media will treat them that way. But if you understand how Donald Trump and his administration are dismantling the strategic and economic levers of the British Empire, then you will understand just how connected they are and just how dangerous the current moment is. I'm Susan Kokinda. I'm no stranger to assassinations or assassination attempts. In 1968, I was with RFK Sr.'s campaign when he was shot. And I was in the press pool in 1981 at GW Hospital, waiting to find out the fate of Ronald Reagan, who had just been shot at that same Washington Hilton. There is a hidden hand behind this. And if you want to understand what it is, hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons. So here's what I'm going to cover today. First, the importance of President Trump identifying the reason behind political assassinations. Second, how a new book spills the beans on the power and influence of the monarchy just in time for King Charles' visit. And third, the new House of Lords report, which admits that the empire is toast without a cooperating United States, which Donald Trump's America is not. So, Saturday night at the Washington Hilton, a 31-year-old man from California, Cole Thomas Allen, charged the Secret Service checkpoint carrying a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives. So you have Butler, Pennsylvania, Palm Beach, Florida, and the Washington Hilton. 3 attempts in under 2 years. How Saturday's attack happened brings up serious and manifold security questions, which Barbara Boyd is diving into and will have more to say on soon. But I'm going to address the why. President Trump said it, but to really understand it, you have to go back 125 years. Because the last president who genuinely threatened the British imperial system was William McKinley. Donald Trump refers to him often because of his tariff policies, which the president has revived. And McKinley made the United States the industrial wonder of the world, as Donald Trump is doing. And McKinley understood the importance of the Western Hemisphere, as Trump does. McKinley was assassinated at a Pan-American exposition. McKinley had continued the American system tradition of Abraham Lincoln, and both of those presidents represented everything the British Empire and the City of London feared. McKinley was assassinated in 1901, but he was not the only leader during that period who was assassinated. In 1894, the president of France was stabbed. In 1897, the Spanish prime minister was shot. In 1898, the Empress of Austria was stabbed. 1900, the King of Italy shot. And then in 1901, McKinley shot. They were all killed by anarchists. Now, Great Britain was notorious for safe housing anarchist movements and the assassins they spawned. Which Promethean Actions ebook, it's the British who murder our president's documents. The link is in the description. Now go back to Saturday's attempt. Whatever else emerges, it's clear that Cole operated in a constructed climate of hatred for the man he targeted, just as those anarchists operated over a century ago. And it's no small irony that many of the guests in attendance at the White House Correspondents' Dinner represented the very press who helped construct that climate. You see it in the newspaper and the social media headlines. Trump is an authoritarian, or he's a pedophile. Now, you also have a more diplomatic version, like members of the House of Lords who warn that Trump has, quote, turbocharged the disruption of the international order. But whatever the temperature scale of the rhetoric, it all comes from the same starting point. What Donald Trump is doing is threatening their system. In 125 years, no president has come this close to dismantling the imperial architecture. President Trump has thrown free trade out the window. He's threatening the power and independence of the Federal Reserve. He is closing off the strategic choke points like the Strait of Hormuz. He's replacing London's shipping insurance racket. He's sanctioning their offshore dirty money operations, and he's pulling the plug on NATO. That's what's behind President Trump's statement after the attack on Saturday.
But you take a look at what's happened to some of our greatest presidents, and it doesn't happen to people that don't do anything. And it's not going to deter me.
That's a president who knows he's making history. And so do we. Promethean Action will keep you on the stage of history as this battle between the American system and the British system unfolds. So if you want to be equipped with the strategy you need to be part of this fight, subscribe to our free newsletter. Because the enemy understands it too, which is why King Charles is in Washington. The empire knows what's at stake. Here's what Reuters is counting on. King Charles on U.S. mission to bolster UK's special relationship with royalist Trump. They're counting on the continuation of the soft power relationship that the monarchy has cultivated with presidents for 70 years. Like the one Susan Page, the author of the just published book, The Queen and Her Presidents, The Hidden Hand That Shaped History, describes. She says, on her first trip to the United States as a sovereign, Queen Elizabeth II so charmed President Dwight Eisenhower that she managed to mend a breach between their two countries over the 1956 Suez Crisis. Now, Suez was the last time a U.S. president seriously and openly challenged the empire. When France and Britain moved to seize the canal in 1956, Eisenhower told them to stop, and he threatened to crash the British pound. They stopped. And it was the moment Britain discovered it no longer had independent power, and it had to rely on manipulating the United States instead. From then on, it relied on soft power to direct the United States. And Page's new book makes clear that it was Queen Elizabeth herself who wielded that power. Here's Page's description in a recent interview.
So almost every day she would get briefing papers. Every week she would get top secret intelligence documents. And so over the period of decades, she was as informed about intelligence issues around the world as any other person, over a longer period of time than any leader, and even over issues, say, contingency plans for a nuclear war.
This is not a figurehead. Queen Elizabeth got top secret intelligence briefings every day for 70 years. She was in on the nuclear war contingency plans, and you can bet she had the full take on the Five Eyes intelligence operation. And she used it. Page describes how the personal relationship between Elizabeth and Ronald Reagan contributed to Reagan's decision to support Great Britain in the Malvinas Islands crisis with Argentina, despite opposition from some of his advisors. Elizabeth was heeding Winston Churchill's advice, quote, stay close to the Americans, unquote. And it worked until Donald Trump came to town. And again, in that PBS interview, Page spills the beans.
You report that a senior British official described the Queen wearing the Obama brooch on the day of President Trump's arrival as a silent act of resistance. That is a striking claim for a monarch who was really studied in neutrality.
A rare example of that. But this was a brooch that Michelle Obama had given her. She had worn it only once, and that was for the reciprocal dinner with the Obamas. For 7 years, she had not been seen in public. Then on the day that President Trump arrives in England, she is in a formal meeting with some religious leaders, and she's wearing it. And I think those close to her told me there was no other way to interpret that, but to interpret it as a statement of resistance to Trump and a statement of support for President Obama, with whom she was actually quite close.
The next day, during that visit to London, President Trump broke royal etiquette and walked ahead of the Queen. This is the backstory that you have to remember while you watch the pomp and circumstance over the next several days. Because soft power and ceremony is not going to undo the hard power which Donald Trump has taken to the British-created post-war liberal order. And the House of Lords just admitted it. Last week, Chatham House premiered a new report published by the British House of Lords International Relations and Defense Committee entitled Adjusting to New Realities, Rebalancing the UK-US Partnership. Now, that committee is chaired by Lord Robertson, who was the former NATO General Secretary, and it includes Lord Kim Durack, whose relationship to Donald Trump tells you everything. Then Sir Kim Durack was Britain's ambassador to Washington in Trump's first term until 2019, when his cables calling the Trump administration inept and insecure were leaked. Those cables also boasted of the networks he cultivated in Washington as he flooded the zone with anti-Trump policies. Trump demanded his removal, and he resigned. 4 months later, the British establishment made him a lord. Now he's on the committee figuring out how to manage relations with the Trump-led United States. And at the Chatham House panel releasing the House of Lords report, Durack made clear what was at stake. First, he described how Britain depends on the post-war order.
There is, as Lord Robertson said in his introduction, a US retreat from what is commonly called the rules-based international order, which broadly defined is the system of institutions and rules set up after the Second World War to manage relations between states, to promote prosperity, and to prevent conflict. And as a medium-sized power with an open economy and a history of supporting free trade, we in the UK have found that system has suited us well. But it looks to us that increasingly Americans are taking a different view.
Suited us quite well. That's an understatement. And in the House of Lords report itself, Lord MacDonald made clear that that system, which suits the British quite well, doesn't work without the United States. He said, there is no credible law without effective enforcement. And on the international stage, there is no effective enforcement without the United States. Then, back to Lord Durack, he delivered the indictment that it is Donald Trump's United States which has abandoned this post-war architecture.
There's also, one could argue, and Lord Robertson again mentioned this in his introduction, a quite clear disdain for disregard for international law, as demonstrated recently by the military actions in Venezuela and Iran. And in some ways, American foreign policy seems to be moving back to an older tradition that is more nationalist.
That older, more nationalistic tradition was last fully exercised when William McKinley was president. The fear that this is going to become permanent runs through every page of the report. If Trump has 2 more years to consolidate, the change may be irreversible. They are racing the clock, and they know it. So while you're watching the pomp and circumstance this week, remember this. The monarchy was never a figurehead. It was a fully intelligence-briefed operation tasked with protecting the post-war order. The hidden hand isn't really hidden anymore. Donald Trump is dismantling that order, and no amount of soft power or ceremony is going to change that. And as the president said after the assassination attempt, it's the ones who are most impactful and who change history that they go after. Promethean Action understands that, and we understand that Donald Trump...
Nuclear wasn't a product that was developed and to sell, really. What it really was a journey to get me well after my experience trying to immigrate and get married to an American citizen in order to get my green card. Towards the end, they send you for a medical, and that's where they sat me down and gave me 16 vaccines in one sitting. At the time, I knew when I was going through it that it's probably not good, but I didn't realize that I'm about to go through the worst health experience of my life. And that's when I went on this journey and understand that nutrition is actually your medicine. I've always heard the old people say your food's in your garden, but we didn't get it. And your body is always trying to heal itself. I mean, you know, when you cut yourself in a couple of days, it heals. And that is the process of homeostasis. Your body is always every cell in your body is always healing itself. And just like anything, if you bake a cake or you build a house, you need the right ingredients to achieve the result. Now, if you don't have the correct nutrition and you're not eating the correct food, it's like trying to build a house without bricks. Now, a lot of people, they say, what does nuclear do? Nuclear itself does nothing. It's not designed to do anything. Your body does the work. It gives your body all the things it needs, balanced in, and it works together to deliver the correct nutritional supplement that you need as a human being to function normally.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, My Pillow mattresses and My Pillow mattress toppers as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets. Regular $69.98, now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Okay, let's talk about a few stories that you should be aware of. And I've got some lagging. I think we're being attacked on our sites again, and the nothing's loading on CDM. So I may have to just talk about these without the pictures. But this is on MiamiIndependent.com. The framing, the framing of Honduran president by Biden's DOJ. This is the first part of a three-part series. We're going to highlight what happened in Honduras and what's going on today with the presidency, and trying to bring some good partners in Central America, which is key to the United States national security. So that one is on the MiamiIndependent.com. We have Dan O'Shea coming on here shortly, and we're going to talk about his new episode of the podcast, Into the Lion's Den. This is with Genghis Khan, who that's his nickname. His last name is Khan. He's a Pakistani-born American infantry officer who served very admirably in the U.S. military in Afghanistan and Iraq, I believe. And you'll hear his story. He's got a new book out called Betrayal of Command. So I thought I'd just play this real quick, and you can hear this little blurb from the new podcast episode, which will be out tomorrow.
But when the rounds are being shot at you, you don't see the unit leaders. I remember first time I was in combat, and the enemy starts shooting at us, and everybody turns around to look back. And I'm thinking in my mind, what the hell are these Marines doing? Why are they turning around? Engage the freaking enemy. He's in front of you. Go, And the reason they're looking back at us, if you remember, squad online, squad V, squad, we taught them wrong. Unit leader is not supposed to be behind the unit. He's supposed to be in front of the unit. And then what happens is everybody keys off the unit leader. And when I made that switch, I realized, holy shit, man, the Marine Corps has been teaching this wrong. And I told the unit leaders, you'll be in front of your formation. And I had a couple of them say, hey, sir, but we may get shot. You're damn right you will. You're damn right. And you know what? I'm going to be in front of you because that's my job. Right? And that's the key part about, being in combat.
So there you go. Wonderful. We're going to have Dan O'Shea on here in a second, and we will discuss that podcast. Again, we're not getting things loading here. I think we're under DDoS attack on our sites. So watch me as I fix a DDoS attack, denial of service attack, while live on TV, and keep the show going. I'm pretty talented, don't you think? All right, let's talk about some of the other issues. there's a story on CDM about the Biden administration knew that the vaccines were bad, and they hid a lot of information. That information is all coming out, so stand by for that. There's one story on CDM.press about Canada, and the officials in Canada are saying, of course, parents have no rights to their children. So you've got mass suicide, mass euthanasia. I think they've killed like 100,000 people in Canada. You know, perfectly healthy young kids sometimes, and they just get them to kill themselves. And you have the government taking over parents. This is parents taking over parental rights of their children. This is really dark stuff, guys. We've also got some really good stories up on armedforces.press, so please check that out. I'm going to take another break because our sites are down. I got to do a little magic during the break, so stand by with us. We'll be right back, and we'll have Dan O'Shea at the top of the hour, and we'll talk about everything that you need to know about his new podcast. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
First time ever, we're bringing you My Pillow mattresses and mattress toppers for as low as $99.98. Remember, sleep's all about temperature and pressure points. Whatever sleep needs you have, we have the right technology for you. Like our My Pillow mattress topper, our queen size has over 10,000 individual comfort supports to help relieve your pressure points. And how about our 3-inch Hybrid Plus mattress topper? It's infused with copper and silver to help your body get the restorative sleep it needs. And our My Pillow and Case Coil mattresses, I personally helped develop these mattresses to make sure they have everything needed to give us great sleep. Plus, they're made right here in the USA, and they ship right to your front door absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to get MyPillow mattresses and toppers for as low as $99.98 and free shipping.
I'm watching my friends gain more and more weight, and then eventually I got to tell you, this is a little dark, but bad diet literally killed my whole crew.
Wow.
Diabetes, a stroke. I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's like, you had a stroke? You're not even 50 years old. You guys got to quit eating this stuff. Your body knows what's what. You're not conscious of this. But that's why people will go to the refrigerator and they'll grab this and that and the other and put together this outrageously elaborate combination of foods. Your body's trying to reach balance. Unbeknownst to us, our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis. You can't eat all of this stuff and expect to live a long time. And one thing led to another, and I went, forget this. We're going to make our own product. So we partnered with one of the world's top 3 biochemists where nutrition-specific study is concerned. I said, all I want is the best nutritional and immune support product in the world. So we mix it in yogurt. It's a powder. I got a bag of it here. I keep one on the console all the time, just so I can show people.
Yeah.
And it's a powder. Now, this is not candy. This is hardcore nutrition. And sugar is an enemy. And most people do not know that the reason these bellies are showing up on people all over the place, your body makes fat to store the toxins it can't get rid of. So it just puts them over here. But I can tell you this, you take this for 30 days and then lay off of it for 2 or 3 days, and you'll go, good grief, give me some more. Skin, nails, hair growing back, cut yourself and it heals in half the time.
Put silver wings on my son's chest. Make him one of America's best. He'll be a man. He'll test one day. Have him win the Green Beret.
Okay, we're back. I'm waiting on Dan O'Shea to show up. I'm going to just bring up on my phone one of these stories I wanted you to look at while we're waiting. Commander O'Shea, he should be here any minute. So stand by 1 second. So the other story I wanted to bring up is that Kennedy is getting the bad food out of the military bases. And he said, if we can do it on our military bases, we can do it in our hospitals as well. So you can check that story out on CDM or armedforces.press. There's also a story on AFP There's a video that appeared recently, and let me see if I can actually bring that up and play a little bit of that until Dan gets here. So there was a video that appeared online, and we think it's a leak, and I'm trying to get Pete Blaber to kind of verify some of this, but it was happened. Here we go. Just one second. So what happened during the rescue mission in Iran, and what was going on in the background? And that is really interesting. This video appeared, and I'm going to play this now and give you some insight into what actually happened there. So here we go.
Silently and leaving before a larger response could arrive. Not an airstrike, which might destroy evidence. Not a conventional ground unit, which would move too slowly.
So the backdrop is they found a bunch of cells operating shoulder-fired heat-seeking missiles in Iran, and this was part of the operation that Delta Force did to take these sites out. So I'm going to play a little bit of this, and when Dan comes in, I'll bring him back.
Instead, a small team trained specifically for missions where precision mattered more than firepower. 12 operators from the United States Army's 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment, Delta. The objective was clear. Insert under cover of darkness. Move 2 kilometers on foot to the compound. Secure the site. Capture any personnel present. Extract whatever intelligence could be carried. Destroy the missile systems. And leave before sunrise. Because once daylight arrived, the cells would move again. And the next opportunity to find them might never come. The operation began in the early hours of the morning, when the mountains along the Iran-Iraq border were at their darkest and quietest. At 2:13 local time, 2 MH-60M Black Hawk helicopters lifted into the air and crossed the border flying low enough to disappear into the terrain. Their altitude held steady at roughly 40 feet above the ground, weaving through the folds of the Zagros foothills in complete radio silence. This was a method known as nap of the earth flight, using the landscape itself as cover. The helicopters avoided radar by staying below the line of sight of detection systems, slipping through valleys and ridgelines like shadows. There were no navigation lights, no external signals, no unnecessary transmissions. The aircraft moved fast but quietly, guided by terrain maps and night vision systems that turned darkness into a dim green horizon. Inside the lead helicopter, 12 Delta operators sat shoulder to shoulder in near silence. Their gear had been checked and rechecked long before takeoff. Each man wore a multicam uniform, a ballistic helmet fitted with 4-tube night vision, and carried a suppressed rifle configured for close-quarters combat. No heavy weapons, no bulky equipment. Everything about the loadout emphasized speed, mobility, and control. The mission depended on those 3 things. If the aircraft were detected too early, the element of surprise would vanish. If the team moved too slowly, the missile cell could escape. And if the operation dragged on too long, the regional response force would have time to converge on the landing zone. Every minute inside Iranian territory increased the danger. The helicopters flew for nearly half an hour before reaching the designated insertion point, a patch of open ground roughly 2 kilometers south of the target compound. Intelligence planners had selected the location carefully. It offered enough space for a fast landing while keeping the aircraft outside the immediate observation range of the hillside buildings. At 2:31, both helicopters touched down. The landing lasted only seconds. The doors opened, the operators stepped onto the ground, and the aircraft lifted away almost immediately, pulling back into the darkness before the dust from the rotors had fully settled. From that moment forward, the team was alone. No visible air support, no backup overhead at low altitude, and no margin for hesitation. Just 12 men, 2 kilometers of rocky terrain, and a target waiting somewhere ahead in the night. From the landing zone, the team moved north in 2 6-man elements, keeping low along a dry irrigation channel that cut through the hillside. The terrain was uneven, scattered with loose shale that shifted underfoot. Every step required careful placement. In the stillness of the night, even a small rock sliding down the slope could carry sound farther than expected. The men advanced slowly, communicating through hand signals instead of voices. Above them, a surveillance drone orbited at high altitude, feeding live imagery to command centers far away. But down on the ground, the operators relied on their own senses. The shape of the terrain, the rhythm of their breathing, the quiet movement of the person ahead. At 2:47, the lead operator stopped abruptly. A raised fist signaled the entire column to freeze in place. Ahead, roughly 200 meters up the slope, a figure sat against a low stone wall. The glow of a phone screen briefly illuminated his face. He was alone, facing south, unaware of the movement approaching from below. The team held their position. Minutes passed in silence as they watched for any sign of movement from the compound beyond the wall. No alarm, no change in posture. The sentry appeared relaxed, absorbed in whatever was on his screen. That small lapse in attention created the opening the team needed. A single suppressed shot broke the silence, sharp, controlled, and quickly swallowed by the night air. The sentry collapsed where he sat, making no sound. The column moved again. By 2:53, the operators reached the outer perimeter of the compound. The structure was simple: stone walls, a wooden gate, and several vehicles parked inside the courtyard. Nothing about the site looked heavily defended, but that simplicity was deceptive. Locations like this were designed to be abandoned quickly, not defended in place. The six-man assault element stacked quietly along the main gate, preparing to enter. Then the unexpected happened. A voice came over the encrypted radio channel from the drone operator overhead. Calm, precise, and urgent. A vehicle had appeared on the road to the east. It was moving fast, closing the distance toward the compound, and its speed and direction suggested something more than routine travel. The response force was arriving early, and suddenly the timeline of the mission changed. The warning came through the radio in a single sentence: calm, controlled, unmistakable. Vehicle approaching from the east, 2 kilometers out, moving fast. Not a civilian pattern, not random traffic. The kind of movement that meant someone, somewhere, already suspected trouble. At the gate, the assault element commander had seconds to decide. If the team waited, the response force could arrive before the objective was secured. If they withdrew, the missile cell would vanish before sunrise, taking its equipment and intelligence with it. The mission depended on speed, and speed demanded action. The order came quietly, but decisively. Breach now. A hydraulic tool bit into the wooden gate, splitting the lock with a sharp crack that echoed briefly across the courtyard. The first 2 operators surged through the opening before the splinters had time to fall. Inside, 3 men were caught in motion, hands reaching for weapons, bodies turning toward the sound. 2 of them never finished the movement. The third stumbled backward into the corner of the room, raising his hands in surrender. He wore civilian clothing, not a uniform, and his expression carried more confusion than defiance. On the table behind him sat an open laptop, its screen still glowing in the darkness, lines of data scrolling across the display. This was not just a launch team. It was an intelligence node. One operator pulled the detainee against the wall, while another moved directly to the computer. A portable drive connected to the system, initiating a rapid download of the files stored inside. Gigabytes of targeting data, communications logs, and operational records began transferring in silence. Every second mattered now, not just for survival, but for the information that could reveal how far the network had spread. Outside, the sound of engines grew louder. The second element, positioned along the north wall, reported movement near a storage shed at the edge of the compound. 2 figures sprinted toward the structure, likely attempting to secure or destroy the equipment inside before the team could reach it. The covering element intercepted them at the doorway, forcing them to the ground before they could act. Inside the shed, the discovery confirmed everything intelligence had feared. 4 FN-6 launch tubes sat ready for deployment. 2 additional backpack systems rested against the wall. Nearby, a satellite communication terminal transmitted data continuously on an encrypted channel, proof that the cell had been signaling beyond the compound even as the raid unfolded. The network already knew something was wrong, and the clock was running out. By the time the team secured the compound, the response force was less than a minute away. Engines could be heard climbing the road from the east, growing louder with every passing second. The element commander understood the situation immediately. The mission was no longer just about seizing intelligence. It was about surviving long enough to leave. The call went out to the overwatch position on the ridgeline. A designated marksman, lying prone above the compound, adjusted his rifle and tracked the approaching headlights cutting through the darkness. The first vehicle appeared around the bend, moving fast, closing the final stretch of road. There was no warning shot, No attempt to negotiate. The marksman squeezed the trigger. The round struck the windshield, stopping the vehicle instantly. Behind it, the second vehicle attempted to reverse, wheels spinning on loose gravel before sliding into the ditch along the roadside. The advance had been halted, not destroyed, but delayed just long enough to buy precious minutes. And in operations like this, minutes were the difference between extraction and entrapment. Inside the compound, the demolition sequence had already begun. Explosive charges were placed carefully along the storage shed walls, positioned to destroy the missile systems without scattering debris across the surrounding area. The operators moved quickly but methodically, checking connections, confirming timing, and ensuring nothing had been left behind. The laptop download finished. The detainees were secured. Every critical item had been accounted for. At 3:09, the final order was given. Detonate. 40 seconds later, the hillside erupted in a flash of light and pressure. The shed collapsed inward, engulfed in fire and smoke. Secondary explosions followed as the missile fuel ignited, sending a brief glow across the valley that could be seen for kilometers. In less than a minute, the weapons that had threatened aircraft across the region were reduced to burning fragments. But the explosion carried a cost. It announced their presence to anyone within range. The team began moving toward the extraction point immediately, escorting prisoners and carrying recovered equipment across the rocky terrain. There was no pause to observe the destruction, no celebration. The mission was only complete once everyone was airborne again. At 3:44, the sound of helicopter rotors returned. Low, fast, and unmistakable. The Black Hawk swept over the ridgeline and descended into the landing zone, touching down just long enough for the operators to board. Engines never stopped turning, doors closed, aircraft lifted. Within seconds, the helicopters disappeared back into the darkness, leaving the burning hillside behind. 48 minutes on the ground. Long enough to strike the target, short enough to survive the response. The raid ended in darkness, but the real consequences began in the hours that followed. Back at the command center, analysts moved quickly to examine the material recovered from the compound. The laptop alone contained tens of gigabytes of data, communications logs, location grids, maintenance records, and shipment schedules, fragments of information that, when assembled, formed a much larger picture. At first, the discovery seemed routine. Another launch team, another temporary site, another node removed from the battlefield. But as the files were decoded and translated, a pattern began to emerge, one that extended far beyond the hillside where Viper 2-1 had been shot down. The compound was not an isolated position. It was part of a network. 14 separate FN-6 cells were identified across western Iran, spread along a wide arc of mountainous terrain stretching hundreds of kilometers from the Iraqi border toward the southern provinces. Each entry in the directory listed personnel assignments, rotation schedules, and resupply routes. The information had been updated recently, proof that the network was active, coordinated, and still expanding. Destroying one site had not eliminated the threat. It had revealed its scale. But the most important discovery was not the number of cells. It was the logistics trail connecting them. Every shipment of missiles, batteries, and spare parts traced back to the same transit point, a commercial warehouse complex near the port city of Bandar Abbas. On paper, the facility belonged to a civilian freight company. In practice, it functioned as the central hub of a supply chain designed to move military equipment without drawing attention. Containers arrived through legitimate shipping routes. Paperwork matched standard cargo manifests. Vehicles transported goods along established commercial corridors. Nothing about the process appeared unusual until the pattern became clear. The system had been built deliberately, not as a one-time transfer of weapons, but as a pipeline. And that pipeline changed the strategic equation of the war. Because as long as the supply chain remained intact, destroyed launchers could be replaced. New cells could be formed. New ambushes could be prepared. The battlefield would never truly be cleared, only reset. That realization forced commanders to confront a difficult truth. The loss of Viper 2-1 was not the central event of April 3, 2026. Aircraft are lost in war. Pilots eject. Missions continue. What mattered was the lesson behind the incident, that a relatively inexpensive weapon distributed through a quiet commercial network and operated by small mobile teams had temporarily reshaped the behavior of the most advanced Air Force in the world, not by overwhelming force, not by superior technology, but by changing the rules of risk. And as intelligence officers monitored the warehouse at Bandar Abbas in the days that followed, they detected signs of new shipments moving through the system, containers arriving, vehicles departing, activity continuing without interruption. The network had not stopped, it had adapted, which meant the next operation would not target a hillside compound. It would target the pipeline itself.
I'm a naturopathic doctor. We are in the world of medicine very acquainted with many modalities, but probably the one most familiar with everybody would be two things: homeopathy and herbals or herbs, maybe some nutrients too, vitamins, minerals, that kind of thing. Now, we do know a lot about the drugs because we have to find out what drug you're taking affects you and what nutrient it depletes you of, because most every drug pharmacy product will deplete something. So we have been trained and we have a database that we can check into that says this is going to take your B12 away. The pharmaceutical company cannot patent organic substances made by the body. You're not born short of Advil. You're not born short of Ritalin.
Yeah.
You can be born short of insulin, right?
Mm-hmm.
The answers to staying healthy and keeping away from even SARS or any of those things getting into you is staying healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You and I get sick because our terrain gets out of balance. Well, that's the same thing in the soil. You and I are made from this thing called dirt. And when we get out of balance, we have the same thing happen. Weeds start to grow in our body. Right? And that's what we want in our body. We want nutrients that we don't understand how to get well enough yet because our suppliers are lacking knowledge on nutrient density foods.
So this is what drove you to develop this, was your knowledge of this, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, My Pillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
Welcome back to the SCIF. We got our DDoS attack handled. CDM.press is back up and running. Sorry about that. It happens almost every day now. Dan O'Shea, I'm not sure what happened to him. He works for SOCOM, so he may have been pulled away. We'll have him back as soon as we can. The second episode of Into the Lion's Den, his podcast, talking about the book Betrayal of Command by Lieutenant Colonel Khan, will be available tomorrow. We'll drop some more clips today. And then our history lesson on 1812 we'll do tomorrow because just too much going on today. But I did have a sit down with Ryan Millsap. He's running in Georgia 10 and really smart guy. And I think you will find this interview just fantastic. So here we go. I'm honored to have Ryan Millsap on the show. He is running in Georgia 10, and we've been talking a little bit about the district and what his vision is. But Ryan, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So tell people may not know who you are. Give us a background. Give us the elevator pitch of who Ryan Millsap is.
Well, I'm a businessman by trade. I've owned a lot of commercial real estate. I owned about 8,000 apartments in the 2000s. I bought those in 2010, 11, 12, 13. Prior to that, I'd bought about 4,500 apartments in a company that I didn't own, but I owned a piece of the deals. But then the 8,000, I was the primary principal.
Wow.
I've done a lot of land development. I've done industrial development. I've converted industrial to retail. I've re-tenanted retail. I've re-tenanted office. I mean, I've done a lot of different things in commercial real estate. In 2015, I decided to build a movie studio in Atlanta after Jan Cathy had built Pinewood Studios about an hour south of town. Jan Cathy of Chick-fil-A. He had proven the market by building one of the most beautiful studios in the entire Western world. And Marvel moved in and started making all their movies there. I saw that success and I tried to copy it in a better location. And I did that. And I built a studio called Black Hall Studios, 850,000 square feet on 100 acres in DeKalb County, kind of the heart of a trucking ghetto in DeKalb County. But I just arbitraged that land use, took it from trucking to movie studio. I started to build 2 more studios in London, 1 in LA, and then I packaged all of that and I sold it to private equity in 2021 for $120 million. So that worked out really well for me. I've been doing more land development and entrepreneurial ventures since that time. But for the last 5 years, I've been in a war with Antifa over a piece of land that I bought while I owned the movie studio in DeKalb County. It's about 40 acres. It sits next to Cop City, that you may have heard of, which was a 300-acre piece of land owned by the city of Atlanta that they wanted to turn into a police training center. And Antifa decided they hated that and wanted to stop it. And Atlanta, because even though this piece of land is in DeKalb County, not in the city of Atlanta, but because they had their own police force, they sent their own police force to protect their 300 acres. But my land next door, that was 40 acres, was dependent on DeKalb sheriffs. And what we found out is that being in an area that's controlled by Democrats at a time when Antifa is attacking you is not a good combination. So I'm happy to tell you that story if you want, but that's really the reason I got in this race, is because I've seen the dystopia that the world looks like if it's run by Democrats.
So you've got a profit motive background. You get a lot of politicians that come in. I was on Wall Street for a while, so I kind of have the same mentality. I mean, you know what it takes to survive in a real economy, in a real business, and the real world. You're not coming from academia or whatever. You've got street cred, right?
No, that's exactly right. Now, I love academics. I was a professor at USC for 7 years in the commercial real estate department there in LA. And my background's all in philosophy. I studied philosophy at Oxford. So I mean, I have a deep, deep respect for theoretical academic life, but I've always been a very practical philosopher. I don't want to just have ideas that sit in the ether. I want to find out what's true. And the way you find out what's true is you go into the real world and you test it. And so that's what I love most about business life, is that I'm a very curious, very adventurous person. And I love making money, not necessarily just for the money, but for the freedom that it gives you. And that's really what the American dream is, right? Is that we're pursuing money not for its own sake. We're pursuing money so that we can build a more beautiful world. And in the Christian world, and I'm a Greek Orthodox Christian, the purpose of all this that we do is to build the kingdom of heaven on earth. But if we don't have the means to do that, then we're really stuck. So making money is a means for making the world more beautiful. And so for me, that's part of the adventure for sure. But yeah, profit motive is important, because if you can't make money, if you can't create things out of nothing, then you really have no power on earth. And I actually think that the people we're fighting, the leftist commies, I don't think they know how to make money. I don't think they know how to build civilization. And so I think they're totally at our mercy as long as we force them to be.
I think they just know how to steal and use other people's money. Interesting, you're Orthodox. I know that community fairly well. And there's a big, what's the word, resurgence or reawakening, a lot of young men coming into that faith. Am I right?
Yeah, praise God they are. I mean, my background, I was a Protestant, but I have a deep history in church history. I've studied church history extensively. my specialty in philosophy was time, eternity, and divine omniscience, particularly around Trinitarianism and the Christian God. And in all of that study, I found myself unable to reconcile a lot of Protestant notions that are very Platonic, just derived straight from Plato, with the actual world we're living in. And I think the Orthodox do a much better job of grounding their Christianity in the real world and in real world effects.
Very interesting. I'd love to talk to you about offline about that, or have you back at some point to discuss that. But tell us about the 10th district.
The 10th district is a really incredible district. It's 20 counties. I live in Social Circle at the very, very north end of Newton County, which a part of Newton County is in the 10th, and then Walton County is right above it. But Social Circle is really the western edge of the 10th district. And then the 10th stretches all the way up to Hartwell, which is the South Carolina border, down into Sparta, which is a little southeast of Lake Oconee. Lake Oconee is all involved, in the middle of it. Madison's right dead center of it. Athens is kind of the north center. And then it stretches all the way down to Butts County in Jackson. And so it is a massive county. It takes me about 2 hours to drive across the whole thing. Maybe 2.5 in the widest part if you went from Hartwell to Jackson, depending on traffic. But it's a savagely Republican, savagely constitutionalist, deep independent, deep respect for individual liberty kind of district. It's a 75% gerrymandered Republican district, and that includes Athens, which is massively liberal and massively broken right now. If you excluded Athens, we'd probably be 85% gerrymandered Republican. So whoever wins our Republican primary on May 19th will be the congressman for this district.
So it's an important race. What is your vision? What do you want to do if you get into office?
Well, really, there's two things that I want to do. First, on the ground in the 10th, I want to unite the 10th in a way that it's never been united before. A lot of these counties don't talk to each other, and the Republicans in the counties don't talk to each other much, and they're not coordinated in their efforts to fix things in a particular county. So we need to create a better network of unified Republican strength across the whole district and brand the district as the 10th. To where everybody who lives in the 10th knows they live in the 10th. They know what it means to live in the 10th. They know what it stands for to live in the 10th. And they learn how to help each other. So if you're in Oglethorpe County and you know that in Hancock County they're having trouble, well, then we figure out how we go help Hancock County rise to the standard of the 10th, right? Because we leave no man behind, right? So I think there's a great way to unite and brand and unify the 10th in a way that brings incredible strength and will make the 10th one of the foundational districts for Republicans in the entire country. Now, in Washington, the primary thing that I want to do in Washington is I want to go rip the face off the leftist commies. And the way we do that is we cut off all their funding. Now, we've seen some of that with Doge. I mean, President Trump and Elon did an incredible job at the beginning with gutting USAID, which reduced a massive amount of fraud. But the fraud is in the hundreds of billions, probably hundreds of billions a year.
Yes.
And so we have to go and continue to be vigilant. It was Thomas Jefferson who said, the only way we keep our republic is if we're eternally vigilant. And so we need to take eternal vigilance into Washington and go root out these NGOs, root out these nonprofits, root out all of the programs for waste, fraud, and abuse that are all labeled welfare, child welfare, senior welfare. There's just so much going on that is abysmally fraudulent that we need to destroy all of that, because that is what's helping these Democrats get reelected.
So true.
So this flywheel of fraud. And it starts with illegal immigration. So, I mean, I'm not a heartless person. Like, I have a huge amount of empathy for people trying to better their lives. And so when people say, well, you're so heartless toward these immigrants, I'm like, well, no, I'm heartless toward the flywheel of fraud that is impacting my life and the lives of other Americans who are watching the waste, fraud, and abuse of the Dems that starts with their abuse of these illegal aliens. So the illegal immigrants come in, they stuff them into these Democratic-run cities, and they get counted in the census. And then in those cities, they get greater representation in Congress, and they use that greater representation to actually vote in these welfare programs that they use for waste, fraud, and abuse. That money flows back not only to all these Democratic supporters, but ultimately to the politicians themselves in various forms. I mean, there's probably all sorts of offshore structures and nonprofits, and you name it. They've figured out ways to hide the money, but that is what is fueling the Antifa riots. That's what's fueling every time 50 people show up to your local commission meeting and act like they're outraged about something. That is all theater. Paid for theater by the left, and all of that needs to be destroyed. Now, to do that, we need to send people like me that have a high level of financial sophistication, understand how this waste, fraud, and abuse is happening, and then that they have backbone and courage to take these people on and root this out. I don't need this job.
Yeah.
This is not a career move for me. This is a pure defensive move where I say, I don't believe these career politicians have what it takes to go defend our country and keep it from being overwhelmed in the bureaucracies by these leftist commies. And so we have to go take those seats to occupy them and use that occupation to then fight the left and fight them tooth and nail. Now, this is not a place where we make money. Washington, D.C. should not be the place where somebody says, I'm going to go there, I'm going to get rich, I'm going to make a great life for myself, and I'm going to end up with this beautiful life. No. Our forefathers were not that way. They were all politicians as a hobby, politicians as a necessity. They needed to keep the order in the country in order to then go build lives. But this class of people that have become career politicians must go. We must send them back to the private sector and force them to go get regular jobs. Now, their jobs are going to be terrible because they are not capable. So they're going to end up in white collar jobs that I think of as white collar welfare, which is mostly accountants and lawyers.
Yeah.
Right. So fine, you go be an accountant or a lawyer. I mean, but you can't get rich in politics. This is not the place for you because we have a job to do, and that job is to keep America American.
You used to say learn to code, but that's not so real anymore since AI's come out. I mean, what are they going to do, right?
And I'm actually very, very hopeful that AI will take over a lot of accounting and that AI will take over a lot of law and that we will root out all these people that are abusing our bureaucracies because our accounting is an abused bureaucracy. Like when you look at the tax code, the IRS tax code, it's bureaucratic abuse. When you look at what's going on in our court systems and the guys that are getting rich as using law for lawfare, getting rich, completely inappropriate. Complete abuse of power. So we have a lot of things we need to fix in this country, but it starts with making sure that the leftists aren't in charge because the only thing they know how to do is abuse bureaucracy.
Well, it's not just nationally, it's globally. I mean, you look at it, the washing machine, I call it circular. It goes to Ukraine, it comes back. I mean, it goes into the pockets of the politicians. I mean, it's insane. You're exactly right. Well, contrast yourself versus your opponent in the primary.
Well, my opponent is a 30-year-old Nepo baby career politician. He's never done anything but be in politics. He's served as a local rep. He comes from a family that's been in Athens, he claims, for 8 generations. And yet Athens is really the worst city in our entire district. And so, but he doesn't want to take any responsibility for the fact that his family's overseen that decline and fall. And today in Athens, like women don't go out at night. They're afraid of the drug clans and the violence that happens in Athens, and it's not safe. And we saw with the death of Lake and Riley that it's a disaster zone. And so he really needs to stay home and take care of his own mess there in his own city and fix that and show us he could do something there. But I'm a 51-year-old guy who's built businesses, done billions of dollars of deals in the United States and abroad. I have a high level of sophistication in law, finance, accounting, entrepreneurship, business operations in general. And I can take all of that to Washington and use it against the left, use it to root out their waste, fraud, and abuse. And then in the district, I can apply my entrepreneurial zeal, my entrepreneurial talent to help organize something from scratch. That's what entrepreneurs do. They start with a blank sheet of paper and they organize a business from nothingness into something that's substantial and sustainable. And that's what we're going to do in the 10th. We're starting with 20 independent counties that largely function on their own, and we're going to teach them how to function as a block and how to and how to strengthen each other and become stronger as a district because of it.
How do you see that? Yeah.
I was just, I don't believe that my competitor has any ability to do any of those things. I mean, he's a young kid who hasn't done anything in the private sector.
It really means a lot to understand the private sector. And if you don't get that, then you're going to make big mistakes once you do get into office for the people, not so much for yourself, but for the people.
Correct.
What about the GOP? Are they helping you at all? Are you
No, my competitor is the GOP rubber stamp candidate. They want him because he's their puppet. Specifically, Speaker Johnson did a deal with President Trump to have him endorse my competitor. President Trump has no idea who my competitor is. He couldn't pick him out of a lineup, And the reason why my friends in Washington told me is that Speaker Johnson doesn't want to deal with me because I'm a grown man with a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and a lot of backbone. And I'm coming in with a mission. I'm not coming in for a job. I'm not coming in to go get wine and dined by the establishment in DC. I've wined and dined myself. My wife and I have been all over the world and seen everything beautiful. Our lives have been incredible. There's nothing Washington, DC can do to impress me. So they can't seduce me, and they don't like that. They can't control me, and I'm going to do what I believe is best for America. And I don't really give a shit about their careers, and they don't like that.
Fantastic. Anything else? How do people help you get involved with your campaign, et cetera?
Well, we're rocking and rolling. I mean, we have so much momentum in the 10th. People are super excited. If you could follow us on social media, which is all the social media is Millsap for America with the number 4, Millsap number 4 America, millsapforamerica.com, or Millsap, you just find us on Twitter, Millsap for America, on Instagram, Millsap for America, on Facebook, Millsap for America, all social media. And then our website is ryanmillsapforcongress.com. ryanmillsapforcongress.com. 2 L's in Millsap. The best ways to get involved, I'm self-funding this whole campaign. I mean, there are a handful of people who have contributed. And if you wanted to, you could do that on our website. But the more important things are to spread the message. So, I'm on programs like this. On my YouTube, if you go to my YouTube channel, which is Millsap for America on YouTube, there are hours and hours and hours of content there. And there are great podcasts just like this. You can get to know me really, really well on YouTube fast. And if you like what you see and you say, this is the kind of guy I want representing me in Washington, this is the kind of warrior that we need to send against the left, well, then spread that. Forward it to your friends. Let them see it. If they live in the 10th, even better. But even if they're just Republican friends of yours and you say, this is the kind of guy we need, listen to this. That's how this message is spreading. Now, if you live in the 10th and you want to put together a group of 10 or 20 guys, I'll drive anywhere. Every day I'm talking to groups and telling them the story and walking them through my vision and helping them understand why it is that you could get a guy who's had the amount of success that I've had to do this. Now, if I hadn't been in this war with Antifa, I wouldn't be doing this. But because I'm so angry at them and I don't want them to run the world that my son's going to grow up in and my 3 daughters are going to grow up in, we got to go take it to these guys. And if I don't do that, I'm going to have regret when I'm older.
Totally agree. That's what drives us here at the network as well. So Ryan, thanks, man. I want to have you back down the road, whether you win or not, because you got a lot of things I want to talk about on the show. So thank you very much for coming on.
No, it's my pleasure. I'm happy to come on anytime.
All right. Take care.
See you.
All right. So hope you enjoyed that interview of Ryan Millsap from Georgia 10. We probably will have more from him in the future on the show because I'm serious. I really like his view of the world. Nucleo Boost. Check it out. We've had a few ads today, but you go to cdmnutrition.com. These are the tablets. There's also a powder. Make sure your cells have everything you need. You don't need 500 bottles in your kitchen that you have to sort through every day to take everything. Just take one Nucleo Boost or take a scoop of powder in your smoothie and you're good to go, or your yogurt in the morning. All right, that's all we got today. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll have some excellent guests. Thanks for hanging with us today, and we'll see you tomorrow on the SCIF, Monday 10 to noon. Monday through Friday, 10 to noon Eastern. And we're on Podcast X, multiple channels, Gettr, YouTube. The show is loaded on multiple Rumble. So Catch us where you can. See you next time. Oh, hit CDM Not Press a few times a day and click on a few articles. The best thing you can do for us. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.